What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Formula One True North, the Canadian Formula One podcast. My name is Drew. I'm here with the boys. We got Tomas and Ed the Shred. We are missing Walker in action today. He will be back with us in a couple of weeks. On that note, let's make an announcement because it is official now. We will be hosting a Formula One watch party for the Mexican Grand Prix at the Scuderia Ferrari Club of Toronto, which is located in Vaughan at 551 Javelin. So if you are listening to this podcast and you want to swing by, just shoot us a note and we would love to have you. It's $10 cover. 100% of the cover will be going to charity, the $1 Million Smiles charity that Scuderia Ferrari supports. And it's going to be, it's going to be a good time. So swing by. We'd love to have you. And let's get to it, boys.
It's lights out and away we go.
We had a race in Austin this weekend, and I thought it was fantastic. I want to get your guys on it. What did you guys think?
Honestly, this is exactly what we needed after such a long break. It was the perfect race. So much things happened, and I couldn't have asked for a better race. You know, some of the small highlights that I want to touch upon. You know, 1-2 in Ferrari, insane. So proud of the boys in regards to that. That was masterclass right there. Kind of a little bit disappointed on. Not disappointed per se, but Verstappen Norris fight that was very, very entertaining. The last 10 laps. We'll discuss the outcome a little bit later, but entertainment wise, amazing. Haas, Lawson, Colapinto in the points, man. Like these new guys are giving us something to be excited about, and how they're essentially killing the older people. Like they're actually performing really well. I see some disappointing people as well. Too bad with Hamilton with the DNF. Albon, once he got a real teammate, he kind of dropped down a little bit for this race. That's also an interesting point. I'm not even going to mention Stroll. Tsunoda, same thing, new teammate, dropped down. Kind of disappointed in AMR, not even in the points. Alonso, could have performed a little bit better, but overall, amazing race, great race. Very, very fun to watch. What do you got, Ed?
Well, you summed it up, everything pretty much, but just I have one thing to just really say. I'm disappointed in Lando. Like, oh my God. Like, if there was a time where he needed to be literally elbows out and the gentlemanly race etiquette should be out the door. Like, we're coming from like a long break, and this is the time to kind of like cement his running for the championship, for the drivers' championship. And I'm all about McLaren, I'm all about Lando, but I'm disappointed. Like, I expected more out of him, and I would have been elbows out with Max. Turn 1, Jesus. But yeah, lots of action, definitely, and we'll get into that more into the episode.
I was just going to say that, Ed. Let's hold off for the Max Lando conversation because we definitely want to bring that up in the mailbox box segment. Let's use this as an opportunity. The mailbox box is a conversation that we have in our Discord channel. If you haven't seen our Discord yet, jump in the show notes. The link will be in the show notes to join the Discord channel. Tons of good people in there, all talking F1 24/7. Should have seen it lighten up today. It was absolutely ridiculous. But yeah, so jump in the Discord. It's a lot of fun. And yeah, we're going to save that because it is a very hot topic right now with a lot of the people in the Discord channel. So let's talk about Ferrari. Ferrari had a 1-2 finish. That was an absolute masterclass that those guys put on in terms of strategy, execution, and that's a rare thing for Ferrari, especially in the last handful of years, right? So Ferrari had a 1-2 finish, and it started on the first turn. I want to get your take on that, Thomas. What do you think about the boys in red this weekend?
Huge surprise. Honestly, I believe Walker last episode, I think he called Leclerc to be on pole number 1, and we kind of all laughed and shrugged it off. But man, was he ever right? Just again, the both Ferrari boys to be on pole, and I think what was it, since 2013 or some long time ago since Ferrari finished 1-2, and
18 years.
18 years. Sorry, yeah. So 18 years ago. Wow, that's break the streak finally. But man, it was so nice to see. First of all, a different team on the podium and a 1-2 Ferrari. Insane. I'm pretty sure a lot of us deep down we want to see Ferrari succeed and perform, and with the last couple of years, the way they were playing their strategy, their cars, whatever, they just weren't really up to par. But this weekend we got it, and we couldn't have asked for a better result from the boys. So very, very excited, very pumped. Hopefully they could continue the momentum going for what's left of the season. Maybe not a 1-2, but hoping to see Ferrari a little bit more on the podium before the season ends.
See, this is what troubles me about Ferrari. Like they're very consistent about being spotty in terms of like really performing. And here's the worst part of it all. They didn't have any upgrades for this race. A zero. Absolutely nada. No upgrades at all. And on top of that, like this is all driver skill and the tactician behind. Fred Vassar was definitely cracking that whip during the break. And let's just hope that they do continue it, because I actually would want to see Ferrari like really creating more momentum for 2025 when Lewis Hamilton jumps in to the other seat of Carlos Sainz. But yeah, man, like the stock right now of Ferrari has been a little bit sketchy, but this weekend, or this past weekend rather, it was different. They were on a different level. Charles Leclerc, definitely turn one, that was his. He knew at the start that Lando and Max were gonna go at it, and normally they always go at it. Like a big example would be Budapest when they have that issue going off the track. Same thing with the USGP. But yeah, just like I just hope this continues, because they are spotty when it comes to their performance. So yeah, looking forward to it and see what the next few races will do with Ferrari.
I think you guys absolutely nailed it. I don't think there's any other points that need to get touched on. Right out of the gate, Ferrari took that opportunity between Max and Lando, kind of duking it out in that first turn, and Charles Leclerc swooped up right in behind him. And even Carlos Sainz, he was putting pressure on Max for the first handful of laps, and then it came down to tire management and strategy. Ultimately, like when they pitted the boys, obviously they brought Carlos Sainz in first, and around the lap 30 mark or whatever. And when he came out of the pit lane, he was well ahead. When Max came out of the pit lane, he was well ahead of him. So the strategy worked, and that's not something that Ferrari's been consistent with in terms of like making the right calls, and then not only making them but executing on them too. And it was nice, and it was good to see. And for somebody like Max Verstappen, for somebody like Lando Norris, to kind of let their momentum slip away, not only to one Ferrari but to both Ferraris over the course of the weekend, it's unbelievable. And I think that it just shows the coming together, the gelling of the Ferrari team right now. And it's unfortunate that it's going to get split up next year with Lewis Hamilton coming in. But ultimately, I think that he's going to add a sense of fresh air to the team to pick them up a little bit. I think his experience and skill set in being able to communicate with the engineers on what they need to make the car better is going to really, really help them. And I'm not saying that Carlos Sainz isn't capable of doing something like that, but he's just got years on him, right? And he's got a lot of winning behind him too. And I think Ferrari's going to take that and absolutely run with it next year. So I am super pumped for that. So moving on, we had Ferrari. Ferrari did absolutely fantastic this weekend. Let's jump over to McLaren. I don't want to get into the whole McLaren Max thing yet, because again, that will be discussed a little bit later, because there's obviously a ton to talk about. But let's talk about McLaren. Where did you guys think that they were going to be this weekend, especially because we had a sprint race? And where did they actually finish? And what are your thoughts on that? Thomas, what do you got, big guy?
So the way Lando was on P1, I honestly thought and expected he is probably gonna finish on the podium, P1, P2, maybe P3. First corner, man, and he lost what, 4 places, I think. Like, I don't know if he wasn't aggressive enough or he kind of let his guard down, but I was not expecting that at all. So that was very, very, very strange for me to see that. In regards to Piastri, I honestly expected him to put up a little bit of a better fight than he did. To me, this weekend, especially him, he seemed not really all there. Seemed a little bit weak and unprepared, not really pushing the car, as much as he should be. Lando, on the other hand, he was in his A game. Again, not discussing what went on, but he was pushing it. He was gunning it. He wanted the points. He wanted the podium. Unfortunately, of the circumstances, he's still in the points, but not on the podium. But yeah, I expected a little bit more of McLaren. They put up a very nice show the last 10 laps, Lando and Max, but the performance wasn't there. Maybe the strategy wasn't fully there either, and overall, I think they still did okay, but points wise, disappointing, I'd say.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like, I think the break, when you're on a hot streak, when you're playing a game or you're exercising or you're competing, like you're warmed up, you're ready to go, and then there's like that long break, and then you get back into it and you're cold, you're not sure of yourself, you have your doubts and all that stuff. I think that's what McLaren experienced this past weekend. It's just it's like they weren't winning before the break, and I'm like, I don't know what happened. It's Piastri didn't really do well in the sprint, and then also for the race, like he was there, but he wasn't there. He was consistent. Like he was right behind, the major pack, and I just like, what happened? Like, come on. But we'll see. Again, Mexico. There's a few more races down. I don't want to get into the Lando Norris thing, but yeah, I'm truly disappointed because, like I said last week or in the last podcast, that I see Lando and Piastri doing the 1-2, and then Max at third. Max was definitely third, but it was the wrong team that was 1 and 2. So, we'll see. Thus is Formula One, as always.
The Oracle can't always have the right answers. I'm sorry, bud. You don't got a crystal ball. I wish you did.
That's it.
But you know what?
As I said, everything is muddy.
In terms of McLaren, though, let's get one thing straight, too. Lando got the pole position not because he was the fastest driver. There was a very timely red flag that happened with George Russell that stopped Max from being able to finish his lap and stopped Piastri, stopped Charles, and stopped Carlos from completing a final lap. So, like, Piastri kind of lucked into that P1. So, I think, based on what I saw for the rest of the weekend, I don't think Red Bull and McLaren had the fastest. I think Ferrari had the fastest pace in that car, right? Like, look what was going on in the sprint race. Like, they were a little bit behind, but, like, you could see that they had some raw pace there. And, to Ed's point, too, they were the only team in the front pack that wasn't bringing upgrades. And everyone else seemed to be a downgrade. Like, I saw Lando Norris get interviewed just before the race, and they were talking about the upgrade package for McLaren, and he kind of even said a meh to it, right? He was like, yeah, we brought a new package, but I don't know if it's considered an upgrade. And rightfully so, as I don't think it was an upgrade. And I think Ferrari, it would have been a combination of them sticking with what's working and it also being, maybe a good track for that package that Ferrari has to perform. But I really like the Austin GP. Like, I forgot how good that track was, and like it's a very entertaining drive. Like, those two DRS zones, the corners where the guys can go in and attack, like, it's a very, very entertaining race. It was also super smart with what they were doing with the white lines and the track limits and stuff like that. They were penalizing the guys right from sprint qualies. right? From SQ1 all the way to SQ3, like they were starting to penalize these guys. They wanted to let them know that the track limits was a hard line, and they were not playing around with that. And the likes of Checo Perez and the likes of Liam Lawson, getting their track times deleted. This affected things in a big way, right? And then you get somebody like Lewis Hamilton going out in Q1. It kind of mixes up the grid a little bit. But back to the McLaren point, I think that McLaren, this was a downer weekend for them. Like this was not what they needed, especially coming back from a 3-week hiatus. They needed to come in with a big W, especially in North America. And I think that, if they don't figure something out quick, that shot for winning the Drivers' Championship could very well start falling apart very quickly. And, Lando doesn't need to chip away slowly at Max's lead for the Drivers' Championship. He needs to start taking chunks out of it in a big way, like 15 points a race. And we had an opportunity, especially with the sprint race, for that to happen, and it wasn't happening. It's not happening. And, for him to make moves in that way, we need to see some bigger shifts. But enough with McLaren. They're whatever. Let's talk about Red Bull, because Red Bull had a very fun weekend, and I think that we got to see the true pace of the Red Bull, which I think is starting to drop. Want to get your guys' thoughts on that. What do you think about Red Bull, where they finished, where they started from, and what you expected from this weekend and where they landed? Thomas.
Yeah, so as we know, Verstappen finished third, and then Perez seventh. I think Perez started on ninth or something, so he didn't gain a lot of places. Honestly, not too surprised where they finished. I did expect a little bit of a better performance from them. Again, my prediction was Max winning the race or one or two, but finished third. Checo Perez, I'm not even going to touch upon him. I don't know what's wrong with him. He's just not performing. So Max is, again, as always, the dragging the whole team. But I did not expect Lando to give such a fight, or Max to get into such a fight with Lando. I think that took a lot of how can I put this? It took a lot of effort for Max to hold on to that position, essentially. And he lost it for a little bit, but with the penalty he got it back. But I think that kind of took away his momentum per se. But where they finished it off, I'm with Checo, I'm not too surprised. With Max, I am. I genuinely thought he's going to come out, he's going to dominate, and he's going to win. So their lead continues to slip. I think it's going to continue to slip. Next couple of races are going to be the races to watch for. Like you said, Drew, in your previous comment, if McLaren wants to make a difference and make a dent in Red Bull, they need to start freaking showing up, because what they did this last race, that wasn't it. So we'll see what the next couple races offer.
Well, actually, Tomas, I beg to differ in terms of like if Lando has any, or if his fight for the seat is still solid. I think he's on shaky ground already at this point. I like, especially after the next race, if he continues to do what because he gets easily like jittered and bothered by, I don't know, this is just the smallest thing in
the pressure gets to him, essentially.
Yeah, it's just like every time he gets pressured by Max, which Max in general just like does that to everyone. Like he needs to just step up. Like, and going back to your question, Drew, like how did Red Bull do? Like, man, Max just like pushing the car to its very limit. Actually, probably even sometimes past the limit, because he couldn't brake anymore on turn one, or he was going beyond what the track limits are, and specifically for this race too. And just like, it feels like Red Bull is now a ghost of its former self. They're still competitive. It's just remnants of the RB19 and the RB20 being like almost symbiotic in some senses in terms of the design and the engineering, but this is it. I feel that after this year, now we have a solidified McLaren. Ferrari's not so far back. George Russell and the Mercedes GP, they're climbing, and I feel bad for Red Bull should, for example, Liam Lawson steps into that seat against Checo. He's going to a seat that's not a competitive car as it used to be. So, and even Max too. And we won't even know what Max's future is beyond this season and beyond his next contract too. If he's tired of all of the back and forth with Red Bull. So it's the team in itself, shaky ground. The performance, shaky ground. Everything, shaky ground.
I'm with you on that one, Ed. I think Red Bull's slipping. And I don't know if it's because they got too cocky or because they thought they had such a stranglehold on this year's Drivers and Constructors Championship that they started focusing elsewhere. I don't know if it's because of Adrian Newey or any of the nonsense that's going on behind the scenes at Red Bull, but they're losing it. And they are not looking like themselves at this point. And I think, Max Verstappen is showing his wild skill set with that car, because I think if you look at somebody like Checo, who's a pretty good, consistent driver, historically at least, that's where the car should be. And I think Max is just driving that car in a way that not many drivers could. And, before we get into it, that last little fight between Lando and Max, like Max made that car as wide as it could be. Like that last 10 laps, it was Max defending. It was not him pulling away from Lando in any way, shape, or form. So that just exemplifies to me the position that Red Bull's in right now. And when you're defending and not fighting ahead, that's not where they need to be. And, I guess it's just a natural progression of things where teams are catching up and surpassing Red Bull at this point. But I think the reality is that they have some serious work to do on their car if they want to finish out the rest of this year strong. That being said,
100%.
Let's put them to bed. Red Bull's done. McLaren's done. The boys in red of Ferrari are done. I want to talk about very quickly here before we get into what everyone wants to talk about, which is the Max Lando fight at the end of the race. Let me get your guys' opinion on the two rookie drivers on the grid. We got Liam Lawson and Franklin Colapinto, and those two guys are absolutely running a rookie clinic this year. I want to get your opinion very quickly. Who do you think is the best rookie driver on the grid right now, and why do you think that?
Honestly, both of them are performing really, really well. The driver that sticks out to me would probably be Lawson, just because he, what we seen last year or this year or last year, now I don't remember, probably this year when he covered for Danny Rick, we seen what he was able to do, and there was a lot of speculation. Was it kind of like a one-off thing where he kind of got a seat and performed really well? But no, it's clear now that behind the car, he does have skill. He can perform. Having the experience that he has, he's doing a phenomenal job in that car. I mean, same with Colapinto, but these two rookies coming in to F1 to their teams outdone their teammates, and that's huge in my book. I mean, Tsunoda was out qualifying essentially Danny Rick, and Albon was out qualifying what's his name, the American Sargent. He was
Logan
out qualifying.
Sargent.
Yeah. But now these rookies are just performing so much better, and it's kind of funny and interesting to see that they're, again, this is the point that I made last episode. They're coming in with fresh heads, not a lot of experience in F1, so they don't have that mental block, and they're just going out there, they're having fun, they're doing the best they can, and they're succeeding. And I hope this continues on, and they just grow and improve their skills. But for me, Liam Lawson so far is my highlight. I think he's a phenomenal rookie, and he's going to continue on improving. I think he has a very, very good chance at having Checo's seat now, if he wants it, that's still kind of opinionated, just the way, Red Bull is going, most likely, yes. But it would be very, very interesting to see him at Red Bull.
Actually, for me, it's Colapinto, dude. I see. I see Lawson being who he is. He's already had a few races under his belt, and the weight was there. But man, Colapinto, my guy, Steak Sauber, please pick up this guy. I mean, I'm sorry, Tomas. I know you're a big fan of your boy Valtteri Bottas, but I think he's done. Colapinto needs to take this seat because he is going to compete. Liam Lawson, I think, based on, if we're just basing it on his performance last weekend, I would say that he has the seat for RB next year. I think Perez is out of there. And looking forward to the other rookies that are coming in next year. But man, my money is on Colapinto this season.
Yeah, I'm going to discuss these two guys first because I'm not sure who I want to decide, but they both have some huge positives for me because I think that, let's start with Franklin Colapinto because he came in kind of out of nowhere. They ousted Logan Sargent after umpteen races of absolute debauchery that was going on there. And, I think the writing was on the wall for a long time. And, I watch F2 once in a while when I'm missing out on F1 or I'm a little excited and I log in a little early and start watching some F2 racing. But Franklin Colapinto was just like, he was a good driver on the better half of average, but he was nothing amazing in F2. Then you put this kid in an F1 car and he's absolutely slapping it. And to your point, Thomas, I don't know if it's because there's no pressure on the guy and he's like, I'm just here for a half season or whatever's left at a Williams car, at a subpar car. But he's absolutely killing it. He's just going out there. He's having fun. And, I watched a little bit of the bit after the race and, Kim Illman, one of the photographers there, was kind of doing a spotlight on Franklin Colapinto. And, the amount of people at the Austin GP race cheering for this kid is absolutely incredible. And this Argentinian kid coming out of nowhere and making his mark on F1, to your point, Ed, I think he deserves a seat. And I would love to see him at Sauber. And I think he jumped into a car halfway through a season and absolutely put on a clinic. And I think Sauber will be crazy not to at least consider him. And, somebody like Valtteri Bottas definitely has a little bit of a winning pedigree behind him, which, at a team becoming a new works team might need some of that consistency. But this kid's exciting to watch. He's very aggressive. He has lots of fun. He knows what he's doing. He keeps it super clean and races hard. And what else can you ask for in a Formula One driver? Speaking of all of those amazing traits, I think Liam Lawson possesses a lot of those. All of us were super excited about him when Danny Rick broke his hand. And, he jumped in the car and he was driving very well. But I think now he's come back and he's making a splash because he actually has a real shot at what's going on in terms of keeping a seat at VCARB and actually having a shot at Red Bull, that second seat. And I thought it was super cheeky too when he he knew he was taking penalties going into qualifying in the race, and he grabbed that car, was doing a couple of toes for Yuki so that Yuki could get better qualifying results. And then he goes back out and absolutely puts a striping lap down, lands the car in third place at the time, and then goes back to the garage because he just wanted the guys in the garage to know what he was capable of in that car. And the radio message went out saying, yeah, Liam, we saw what you did. Point taken, bring the car back. Because he wasn't even supposed to be out there. Like, he just wanted to show them, like, I know I can't do anything because I got to take a bunch of penalties this race, but I want to let you guys know what I'm capable of. And I thought that was super cheeky, but also, like, that cocky confidence that a driver needs to have, especially in Formula One. And I think he's a great addition to VCARB. I think he's going to keep Yuki on his toes. I think he's going to outperform Yuki for the remainder of this season because he's excited and he's got something to gun for, because that second seat at Red Bull is a shot, and that's a very real possibility for him. And I think if he doesn't shoot his shot, that he might miss out on it. So Yeah, I'm going to go with Liam Lawson. I'm going to go with Liam Lawson as my rookie pick of this year because as much as I love Franklin Colapinto and I think he's a great driver and fantastic young gun, I think we are going to see we're more guaranteed to see more of Liam Lawson over the next few years than we're guaranteed to see Franklin Colapinto. And I hope that Colapinto doesn't, have to retire after this and he just gets a short little stint in Formula One. I hope he truly gets a chance and some of these other teams take a look at him in a big way because he's good. He's got skill and he's proved it to everybody. But I think Liam Lawson's going to stick around and we're going to see a lot more of him and hear his name a lot more in the coming years. So it's time, boys. It's time. We are going to talk about the last 10 laps between Lando and Max Verstappen. It's well-deserved, well-earned, and I think both of those drivers absolutely put on a show for everybody. I actually forgot that Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz were ahead because the camera did not pan to them for at least 25 minutes. And I forgot that they were winning the race like hand over fist. But there's lots of controversy about what's going on, who had the right to the corner, who went off. How the race played out was, Lando overtook over the white line. He got a 5-second penalty for it. I actually did a little bit of digging today. I rewatched the highlights and I saw Max Verstappen do the exact same thing to another driver on the third lap. And the other driver, or no, who was it? It was Carlos Sainz. He did the exact same thing on lap 2 with Carlos Sainz, where Carlos dove in. They both went off the track. And then Carlos just naturally gave that position back because he couldn't do anything about it. And the exact opposite thing happened when Max Verstappen did it. And he didn't let that natural progression happen. And he did not pass the buck back to Lando. Just my 2 cents on it. I think it was a debauchery. I think that the way that they tried to control this took away the excitement of the wheel-to-wheel racing because I think they should have let this play out a little bit differently. Ultimately, like when things are happening at 300 kilometers an hour, it's really hard to make those decisions in the moment. It's much easier to sit back, half a week later and talk about the coulda, shoulda, wouldas. But in my opinion, I think it could have been handled a whole lot differently. Ultimately, the fans won because it was exciting. I think it's confusing for some of the fans how the penalties got shoveled out because I think George Russell got very similar penalties for some others. I think it just needed to be more black and white. And in being black and white, you're taking away that gray area. And unfortunately, that gray area is the fun wheel-to-wheel racing that we love watching. And we like to live in that gray area because that's exciting. But unfortunately, like I said, the black and white is what it needs to be in order for a sport to have rules. The drivers understand the rules and can play within them. And I think Max did that very well. He knew the rules and he played within them, regardless of whether you think that's right or wrong. I want to get your 2 thoughts on that very quickly. But before we do that, let's give a quick shout out. Formula One True North. If you haven't yet followed us, go onto social media, jump onto Instagram, jump onto YouTube, give us a like, subscribe, all that fun stuff, because it really helps with the algorithm. The more we can get out there, the more we can bring you some better quality podcasting. So like, subscribe, all the shows or all the links will be in the show notes. So we just really appreciate your support. Back to regular scheduled programming. Thomas, what do you think about the Lando Max Verstappen issue?
So regardless what happened, the last 10 races were pure gold. It was, and like you said, Drew, the fans ultimately won that because the entertainment was to the max. It was so fun, so entertaining to watch. Now, regards to the penalties, I don't know. I'm a little bit mixed feelings on that. I haven't watched the highlights, but just from memory and what I've seen during the race, I was really, really shocked that Lando got the penalty. I thought it should have been Max because it seemed to me at the time that Max pushed him off. Essentially, he had to go wide. And, and I get it, Lando kind of overtook him and whatnot. So I don't know how I feel about that. And, to your point again, Max and Carlos Sainz did that and it was kind of reversed. Do I think it's fair what the FIA did with the rules? gray area. I wish I had a more specific answer, but I don't think, in my simple view, it should have been a racing incident. It could have been handled better. I don't know what that better is, but for Max to get, or for Lando to get the penalty, I don't think that was the right move either. Yeah, that's what I have to say. I guess that's what I'm sticking to.
Before you get started on that one, Ed,
Yeah.
I just want to give a shout out to all the people in the Discord channel in the mailbox box segment who absolutely put this entire subject on blast today. So we could go and shout every one of those guys in the Discord out, because my phone was blowing up. I don't know about you guys, but things were popping in the Discord and it got heated about this. So if you guys have an opinion about how this situation was handled, jump in the Discord and let us know there. Ed, back to you, my guy.
Yeah. I also want to say something on that one too. If you want to see the drama, join us on Discord. Like, really jump in there because it's a good read. Definitely a good read. Anyway, so I'm gonna say that I'm actually on the side on FIA on this one. And before y'all chew me out, like, just hear me on this. I think that yet again, with what happened in on lap 1, turn 1, with Lando and Max, like, he was just bitter that he never gave the spot back. He pushed him out. So now, like, with the second chance, like, bookending the actual race from like the start of the race to the last 10 laps, giving all of that action. Like, if he really, really wanted to win that race, if I were Lando, I would be elbows out too. You want to hit me, bro. Let's go. I mean, if you're gonna take me out, we're gonna have 0 points. Nothing's gonna move for the drivers' championship, and we are going to stay here. And I'm going to get you back on the next few races. But yeah, it reduces the amount of points that Lando can get. But man, I mean, I'm just going to go back to my point. Like, Lando needs to go elbows out, full on taking the fight to Max Verstappen. And just like, if Max can do that to him, he can do it too. But the question is he even capable of doing that? Can he actually pull it off? That he's going to go elbows out, even with his teammate. He can't even do that with his teammate. What more with the great Max Verstappen? So, I don't know. I'm going to side with FIA on this one, on the ruling. This is all on Lando, why he was not able to, win lap 1, turn 1. And yet again, the last few laps, he had pace, as you said, Drew. He had that pace. Red Bull was just like doing defense all those 10 laps, but teeth weren't out. He wanted to throw pillows. He wanted to throw a pillow fight, and started crying to mommy right after when he lost the pillow fight. So, yeah, that's my 2 cents on that.
Love it. So we've wrapped up the Austin GP and Circuit of the Americas. It was a fantastic race, entertainment value at a volume 11. I'm all the way here for it. Next week, we are part 2 of a triple header. We are headed to the Mexican Grand Prix, which is going to be fantastic, which is also why we partnered with the Scuderia Ferrari Club of Toronto to host our very first Formula One True North watch party. So if you've made it this far in the podcast, we love and appreciate you. You are welcome to come out to Scuderia Ferrari of Toronto, which is at 551 Javelin Drive up in Vaughan. It's a $10 cover. All that money goes to the $1 Million Smiles charity that Ferrari supports. And we'd love to see you guys out there. We're going to have some food. We're going to watch the race, and there's going to be lots of fun, family friendly. So if you have kids, bring your kids. It's all good. It's going to be an absolute blast. We want to thank Scuderia Ferrari for allowing us to host our first watch party there. It's really big of them. Shout out to Juan Carlos, who has been an absolute gem in organizing this. And yeah, we're off to the Mexican Grand Prix. You guys got anything going on for that? What are your thoughts?
Well, the Mexican Grand Prix is going to be, I think it's going to be an interesting one based on the fact that what Red Bull outside sources have hinted that it might be Sergio Perez's retirement, possibly. So I'm kind of looking forward to that to see if this is actually some solid news or is just another big old rumor. But in regards to the whole GP, I'm excited for it. That track I generally like. I think it's a great atmosphere. I think it's a fun track. And I really don't know what to expect of this upcoming GP. You know, just the way things turned out last GP, I don't know who's going to be 1, 2, 3. So looking forward to that, and looking forward to an exciting race.
Yeah, I'm gonna echo that. It's Checo's swan song. He's going to announce, or Red Bull is going to announce, we're done with you. Peace out. We got you to your home race. This is your adios, amigos. Or this is your un día de la muerte de carrera. And he's done. It's over. Like, I don't think Checo is going to see past the season.
Well, if it's anything like last year, he didn't make it past the third corner. So let's hope Checo does a little bit better than that this weekend. And yeah, thanks everybody for listening. This is Formula One True North, the Canadian Formula One podcast. If you haven't already, hit us up on the socials. We got TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, all the goods. Don't forget to like, subscribe. We appreciate you. And we will catch you next Wednesday for our next podcast. Take care, everybody.
It's lights out and away we go.